Hey everyone, welcome back to Making a Brewery episode number 6. Some updates for you, I guess. It's been about a month since I did a video, so some developments over the past month or so. So we had a lot of delays on the planning process. I'm not sure if I covered this in the last video, but we found out from the architect who did the drawings on this place that we actually didn't own part of our garden. Just a technicality, a couple of meters of our garden is essentially in the boundary of someone else's garden, but it was all fine. It just took a couple of weeks to sort that out, and that delayed the process. And so yeah, the planning application actually went in, I think about a week and a half ago on, I think it was April 21st or April 22nd, 2025 is where the application has gone in. So as far as I understand it from the Cavan County Council, someone has to visit the site then within 5 weeks of the initial application to assess things. So hopefully over the next 4 weeks or so, I'll have a good update on that and an idea whether we will get the planning permission or not. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about with the planning permission is I checked it online and they have flagged that the where we're located, or this house essentially, because it's beside the lake, it's in a special, an area of special conservation, or special area of conservation, or something like that along those lines. So I anticipate that may slightly make it more difficult, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The other thing that I have an update on is the leader funding. So after submitting the initial expression of interest for leader funding, a guy from the leader program came out to visit me. Again, he looked around the brewery, tried to get an idea of what we're all about. And based off that initial assessment, he said we would be eligible to apply for leader funding, which is the actual application is a little bit more detailed, and he gave us some advice around the business plan that we initially submitted. We had put costings in for 2 years. He asked us to put it in for 5 years. But he also said they couldn't do anything with us until we have planning permission for this location. So essentially that is on hold until we have the planning permission. Everything's on hold, I guess, until we have the planning permission, which is kind of what we knew all along. So in the meantime, over the last couple of months, I think I mentioned before, I've been working on my own brewing skills, and I've been working with a brewery coach in the form of the Rockstar Brewer Academy. So over the last 2 months, I've been going through something that's called Beer Quality Boot Camp. And essentially it's taking you through the whole process of writing your recipes, and trying to brew consistently and hit your numbers consistently, but also define what quality looks like in terms of a true to brand of what you're trying to brew. So what should the end beer look like, taste like, smell like, etc. So really enjoyed that process, and that process is essentially culminated in where I am today in brewing my first official pilot brew for the brewery, which is going to be a lager. We're provisionally calling that McCree Irish Lager, which is McCree in Irish is my heart, and I've put my heart and soul into this beer. So I'm literally at the moment pilot brewing that beer. It's on the boil at the moment. So the actual brown moister and the fermenters still not in use. We haven't got those up and running just yet, but we are spending some time on our grandfather kit, just getting things ready and doing some pilot brews on there. So let me see, can I switch this around? Yeah, so there we go. You can see we're 47 minutes left in the boil. It's going to be a 75-minute boil on there. Sorry for the noise. That's our sparge water, or well, actually sparging is done, but just heating up some water in case we need to liquor back at the end of the boil if we don't hit our original gravity numbers. So yeah, this is going to be a kind of a classic lager, 100% Pilsner malt, and a little bit of Magnum for my bittering hop, and a little bit of Mittelfrau, I think, as my mid 30-minute edition. So yeah, that's what we're at the moment. I have been brewing other beers, just kind of testing out various recipes. But today's brew is where I'm really trying to stick to the process that I've learned in the Rockstar Brewer Academy. So I'm monitoring pH a lot. I'm looking at some different ways of doing my sparge water additions, and just generally trying new processes to hit my numbers in a consistent way and make sure I'm brewing in a really, really consistent way. So yeah, let me come back to you in a little while. I'll just kind of finish up this video here, and then maybe I'll come back at the end of the brew day. I'm probably going to watch a little bit of football now. It's UEFA Cup, not UEFA Cup, Europa League. That's showing my age, the old UEFA Cup. Europa League semi-final. I'm going to watch Spurs against Bodo Glimt, so I can watch that while I'm doing my brew. But yeah, let me come back at the end of the boil and we'll talk a little bit more. Welcome back. Well, Jesus, what a day. That was an interesting brew day. So quite different from my normal brew days as a home brewer. So today really, really focused in on a lot of numbers, and yeah, it was quite difficult, I guess. I had to focus on a lot of things. As a home brewer, when you're brewing, you kind of just accept how the brew day goes. If your numbers are off, you kind of just accept that. If you overshoot your numbers, you're kind of happy because you're getting more alcohol. Or if you undershoot, you're kind of just accepting of it, and you kind of move along and just see whatever way the beer turns out. But today I was really focused on some core numbers, which according to the Rockstar Brewer Academy are really key to getting consistent beer. So if you can get these numbers correct every time, you're going to brew consistent beer. So the first number that you obviously need to focus on is your pH, but not mash pH. So most home brewers will focus on a mash pH. With professional brewing or brewing with the Rockstar Brewer Academy, you're more so focused on your wort pH, so your ending pH as you're going into the fermenter. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The other two numbers you're really focused on are your original gravity. Obviously you want to hit that number, you don't want to be off on that number, and your pitching temperature as well, or your knockout temperature, essentially what temperature you're pitching the yeast at. So today, for the beer that I was brewing, the Macri Irish Lager, the mash pH I was aiming for was 5.35, and the wort pH I was aiming for, which is essentially at the end of the boil, was around 5.2. So I had trouble sticking to those numbers today. So I think my original mash pH was around 5.5, added in some lactic acid just to get that number down. I think I originally added 2 mils. It only came down ever so slightly. Had to add another 0.5 mils, another 0.5 mils. Anyway, I was working really hard to get that number down. But for some weird reason, the pH kept on going up. Every time I tested it after a few minutes, the pH number would go up ever so slightly, which is not really what should happen. So I'm questioning whether my pH meter is off or something else was going wrong in the overall mash, or something really weird that I don't really understand. Mash pH shouldn't really go up. It should technically go down as you go. So that was a really weird occurrence today, that just every time I tested my pH, even after adding lactic acid, which should bring the pH down, it was tending to go up a little bit. So I don't think it's my pH meter, because I calibrated it right before brew day, which is again another recommendation from the Rockstar Brewer Academy, that you calibrate all of your equipment every day before your brew day. So my pH meter is calibrated, my density meter from Anton Pars is calibrated, my smart ref is calibrated, all of the equipment I'm using is calibrated every day before I brew. So I don't really understand why those numbers were challenging today. However, eventually when we got towards the wort pH, which I should have been aiming for a wort pH of 5.2. I think I ended up around 5.35, which is where I should have originally began. I'm not going to be massively upset about that because we do set in tolerances of 0.1 for pH with the Rockstar Brewer Academy. So even though I was 5.35, essentially where, you know, within tolerance would be 5.25. So I'm kind of within 0.1 of my tolerance there. So that's not too bad. I hit the other two numbers, which were my, my gravity, my finishing gravity of my brew was around 1.047, which meant I needed to liquor back, essentially add water back into the wort, which is something I don't normally do. Again, as a home brewer, normally just accept where you finish up in terms of gravity. If you overshoot your numbers, great, you're going to end up with a beer with more alcohol. But as a professional brewer, obviously you need to focus in on those numbers. You can't have differences in your alcohol for every different batch that you brew. So essentially you liquor back, you add water back into your beer to arrive at the correct gravity you're looking for. So I was looking for a gravity of 1.042. I ended up at 1.041. Again, within tolerance, 0.1 of gravity is something that we can accept in terms of tolerance there. And then my knockout temperature or pitching temperature was around 15 degrees Celsius, and I was spot on in that. So not completely ideal in terms of that sacred trilogy of three numbers, but within tolerance as well. So I can accept those numbers. But yeah, an interesting brew day. Normally, as I said, as a home brewer, you're very blasé in terms of how things go. You just accept what you're getting in terms of the numbers. You're happy if you hit your numbers, but sometimes if they're a little bit off, if your efficiency is better in terms of if you're getting a higher gravity number, or even if it's a little bit less, you just shrug your shoulders and get on with it. Obviously, as a professional brewer, that's not acceptable because ultimately, when you're putting beer out onto the market, it has to be exactly as you say on the tin. If you're looking for a beer that's 4.3%, you can't stick a beer onto the market that's 4.6% or 4%, for example, if you're way out in terms of those numbers, because ultimately revenue is going to be checking your beer. And if you're way off in your numbers, you either have to pay more tax or less tax, or ultimately it's not good in terms of being way off in your numbers. So that's something that as a pro brewer you really need to focus on. So at the moment, I think it's what time of the night is it? It's been a long brew day. I think I started around 5 p.m. this evening. It's 11 p.m. now, and I'm still in the brewery. I'm only starting to clean up now. So yeah, it's been a long and interesting day. As I said, quite different than a homebrew day where there's a lot of things I'm not focused on a homebrew day. I'm just focused on maybe mash pH. Today I was constantly checking gravity, pH, making sure that my volumes were correct, everything like that. So I would say not as an enjoyable brew day as I'm normally used to. Normally I just throw things on, kick back and maybe watch the football and stuff like that. I didn't really have the opportunity to do that today. So so it was an interesting brew day. But let me show you one or two other things that I've been doing with the Rockstar Brewer Academy, just so you get an idea of some of the things that I've been focused on. So let me just flip the camera around here. So some of the things that I've been focused on, which you can see on my wall here, essentially this is what's called a wall of wisdom. Now it's not fully built out at the moment, but what this is putting things up on your wall that you may need to refer to during your brewing process. So things like, and this is really early days because I'm not commercially brewing yet, but things like your approved chemicals. So on there at the moment, I only have 2 approved chemicals, but as I go and once I'm brewing professionally, I may need to add on other things on there, probably 5 or 6 different chemicals you may use in the cleaning process, or different acids, etc. I do have stuff like a beer flavor wheel, just to give me some ideas on how I should be describing my beers. and other things like I mentioned a moment ago, standard tolerances. So that's something that I've listed on my wall. Also, any process aids or any equipment I'm using, what are the dosage rates and when I should use them in the process. And then also things like on here, how often I'm calibrating my equipment. So you can see my density meter here, when I last calibrated that, my pH meter, my RO water when it was last tested for TDS, and then some recipes on there as well. So yeah, really dialing in numbers is a key part of what I'm going to be doing going forward, because ultimately I have to be producing consistent beer. And the only way to do that is really focusing in and having reminders on the wall of what I should be brewing towards, what are the numbers, and if I'm off on those numbers, how do I correct towards what I should be doing. So one final thing that I will update you guys on is the electricity situation. So the long running saga of electricity. So I did submit a request for a quote with the ESB approximately 13 or 14 days ago. So I think their standard kind of what's the timeline that they say is they give 15 business days before they can give us a quote. So I submitted the application for the quote, so I'm hoping to hear back in the next couple of days what it will cost to get 3-phase electricity or power in here. Again, they may come back to me and say that we don't have planning permission yet for a commercial premises, so they're not going to give me a quote, but the application is in. That's the first step. I'll wait till they come back to me and see what they say. So that's more or less it. I think, yeah, maybe I'll do some more videos on the whole pilot brewing process. So hopefully once this beer, which is now in the tank, I've pitched my yeast, it's 15 degrees. So once this is completed, I expect in probably about 3 weeks or so, that I can do some sort of review on that pilot brew, let you know how it went, and maybe do some other pilot brews as well. But yeah, that's it for episode 6. As always, if you have liked this content, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and do leave some comments on there as well on the video if you have some feedback on these videos. If you have any questions around the overall process that I'm going through in terms of starting this brewery in Ireland, do let me know. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Cheers.